Kris, there we go. So take us through the process. Do you do a little bit of a deconstruct on the series that was to sort of evaluate areas that maybe you'd like to improve upon before you get into, the scout on Vegas? Or what sort of transpires over the course of these couple of days?
From the end of one series, the LA series, moving on to the next one, there's not enough time, and I think we move on to Vegas as quickly as possible. We look at what Vegas is, what type of team they are, what their systems are, things that we have to be aware of, and any maybe weakness that they have that maybe we can try and exploit, or any advantage we can try and find, and then move on to there. So there's doesn't feel like that we have enough time to do that. There's a lot of factors, but so I think the best thing is for us to, obviously we want to review and look back on the LA series, but we were doing that the last 2 weeks during when those games are played on. And after I said in my post game, I think LA systems, their type of team compared to Vegas, they drastically are different the way they play. So I think a lot of what we need is moving forward is just kind of get prepared for Vegas.
They've had a great power play all year, top 3 power play in the league, and they killed Minnesota in the special teams battles because they ended up giving up 5-on-5. They were outscored. So just a thought on the challenge, especially against a team with not a recently red-hot power play, but a good power play the entire year.
Special teams are so important throughout the year, but even more in the power play or in the postseason, just because of the teams are so dialed in, it's very competitive and equally matched, that it usually comes down to a 1-goal game, and that 1 goal is usually a special team marker. And we know they're everything. They don't have a weakness to their team. Their power play, their penalty kill, the 5-on-5 play is all very strong. And especially the power play, and we're going to have to, one, limit the amount of penalties that we take, giving them opportunities, but also there's things that we'll have to try and nullify on their power play. And we do know that there's possibility of their power play looking a little bit different than it did during the regular season because of injuries or an injury that might factor into that. But either way, we'll have to be prepared.
Depth became kind of a factor in this series. You used your 4 lines, you used your 6 defensemen. I just want to ask you about the confidence you have in your bottom 2 lines and your bottom pairing defensive, being able to throw them out there in any situation. How valuable is that going into a series like this?
Depth is important, and whether that's on defense, up for the forward lines. You look at our 4th line, per se, if you want to call it that, the Janmark line with Podkolzin and Arvidsson scored 2 really key goals in games 5 and 6. And, I'm not sure who they were out there against, but, their competition were against their 1st to 4th lines throughout those games, and we're going to need more of that. So we're not hiding from anyone because we feel that we've got so many good players that can play against other teams' top lines. And, we're going to need, as much as Connor and Leon are our 2 most valuable players, and they typically impact the game more than anybody every single night, but they can only do it so many times. We need other guys stepping up, and it was nice to see in the LA series that other guys did step up.
Janmark's a guy that does that. Like, you have Janmark and then you have playoff Janmark, and we're starting to see playoff Janmark. What is it about him that you see him elevate his play, at this time of the year?
Just likes the competition, likes the stress of the games, elevates it. Other guys fade when the checking's tighter and the competition's higher and there's more pressure on players. Janmark and some other guys obviously enjoyed that challenge and just play better. So we certainly want more of that because we'll need it.
Chris, I apologize in advance if you've been asked this or a similar question, but I wonder about the series a couple of years ago. Obviously, you weren't the coach. Just how you approach that, how you look at that, or do you talk to players? Do you talk to, Glenn Gulletson was part of that series, or is it too far removed for you to really put much stock in it?
I guess the biggest pieces from the Oilers team and Vegas team are still here. So I think there are some similarities. Of course, there's been some change. A lot of time has passed, but I think there's some things that we can take from it, whether it was line matchups, who did well, who didn't, what they were looking to do. Their systems are very similar. So, there's some things that we want to look at, but I think there's been a lot of time that's passed. So I think there may be a little bit of information that's relevant to going forward, but most of it I think is just noise.
When you buy yourself these days that you're getting right now, can you just describe the strategy that goes into the, how to take advantage of those, but overall how valuable those can be when you earn extra days like this?
And it's good. Not that we had any injuries, but certainly you play as much hockey as you are, and the minutes some of our guys were playing, that anytime you have a little bit of a rest, it's beneficial. And we were back and forth what we should do with our schedule, the anticipation that we were going to start Monday and now maybe possibly Tuesday. That is still undecided. Has been fluctuating what we do. So we felt that it was good to give our guys, the heavy minutes guys, 2 days off. We'll have a full team practice tomorrow and then travel, whether that's tomorrow or the next day, depending on when the schedule comes out.
A lot of times when you're waiting like this, you're also waiting to figure out who you're going to be playing. That hasn't been the case. You've known. Is that nice to sort of have had that information so you can schedule sort of how you're strategizing and planning through these days?
Absolutely. It's nice to know who you're going to play because you want to know we're going to have one full team practice and we want it to be meaningful. What are we going to address? We had one meeting today that was with all the players on, a little bit on Vegas. What are their strengths? What are we going to have to be good at to counter those? And whether that's in the defensive zone, offensive zone, player, transition, all those kind of things, we identify a few points that are going to be very important, valuable, if we're going to have success. Tomorrow we'll touch on those in practice. Of course, we're going to do some more meetings and review, but the more time you have to prepare, and Vegas is in the same situation. They're doing the exact same process, and then everyone hopefully will be prepared, and it'll come down to execution on the ice.
Knew Ekholm wasn't going to be available for the opening round. Any chance for round two?
No, he will not be available this round.